What's going on, guys? Hey, I wanted to first ask you before we start this, if you like my content, and if you would, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I've got right at 100 people, and I would like to get to about 110 within the next week or so. I'd like to increase my subscribers by 10 over the next week. But anyways, I'm going to show you a reaction video that I have to JLP Peterson, who's a pastor and an activist, talking with Dr. Jordan Peterson, who is a clinical psychologist, now a former professor, and is also an activist. And they're talking about free speech and building your character, but your character building that has to be based upon truth. It has to be based upon being honest about things. And I had a conversation today, a long conversation with a friend of mine on the whole aspect of being honest and being truthful in your relationships and with yourself, and how we as a society have to start being honest about things, even if it offends people, even if it, if it offends people based on race or sex or sexual orientation or the transgender stuff. It's like we've got to be able to speak openly on things and openly on issues. And if it offends people, that's the way it is. I understand. But let's try to speak with a certain air of being honest about things, not to hurt people, not to make people feel bad. But if that ends up happening, we need to understand that we can't censor speech because of making people feel bad. That's bullshit. That's something we can't do, because we lose something in that process. We lose the very nature of the argument itself. What if we're unwilling to speak on something? If I'm unwilling to speak on something that I feel is important, just because I'm a man, or just because I'm white, or just because, we can't be honest about anything. We can't be truthful. We can't expect things to get fixed, things to head in the right direction, if we're unwilling to speak about how we feel about certain things. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and put up part of this interview, because
free speech is like, if you're in a family and you have problems to solve, everybody has to be free to say what they think, because otherwise, well, you don't know what's going on with them. You don't know what's happening inside of them. You don't know what's happening with them psychologically. They can't tell you their.
Yeah, see, that's a really kind of a fundamental truth that we got to get to, is we got to be able to say what is on our mind. To ever get to a problem, we've got to figure out what the problem is in order to get help for that problem, in order to figure out a solution for it. And we've got to be able to say things that that might be offensive to other people. And, just because we offend other people does not mean our freedom of speech should be suppressed in any way, shape, or form.
Concerns, and you can't tell them your concerns, and then you don't know what the problems are. Yep. And you can't address them, you can't solve them, you can't reach a consensus, and then those problems build up. People spill out and cause all sorts of catastrophes.
So true. Is there free speech in Canada?
Well, we have a long tradition of free speech, but recently that's being eroded by people who are pushing particular political agenda that has to do with radical equality, especially equality of outcome. So, for example, in Canada now, we're increasingly compelled to use these pronouns called gender-neutral pronouns, inventions, I think, of radical leftists.
Yeah.
Mentally, pronouns like Z and Zer instead of referring to people as he and she. And it's part of a general assault on the idea of the differences between men and women or boys and girls. The idea is that because there are a few people who believe they don't fit comfortably into the normal categories of sex, that everyone should relinquish their belief that there are differences between boys and girls or men and women and start acting as if there's no distinction between the sexes.
Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. We got to be honest about something. I don't care if you're trans or if you're whatever, but if you look like a man wearing a dress, you don't need to be in the women's restroom. If you guys had appendage between your legs, you don't need to be in the women's restroom. I'm sorry, you don't. But the fact of the matter is, we need to use the restroom of the sex that we look like, not the sex that we want to claim we are. And I believe that is, just truth. If you walk into the bathroom and you're some macho man with, the only thing different about you is you're wearing makeup and a skirt and a blouse, you're still a dude. You're still a man. And the fact of the matter is, we have got to be honest about things. We've got to be able to see. I mean, it's kind of like, a friend of mine was telling me today where somebody was in like New York City and walking around asking people, can a man get pregnant, is what they were asking people. And nobody really wanted to answer the question. And the fact is, man, we know, all of us know, without a shadow of a doubt, that there is no damn way that a man can get pregnant. Not a biological man. But we're going to pretend that men can get pregnant because that is the way that right now it's unpopular. It's seen as mean if you're telling the truth. If you dare to speak up and say something as no, men can't get pregnant. If you dare to speak up, you're shouted down. You're said you're transphobic and you're this and you're that and everything else. And it's like, no. But see, they're effectively taking away people's comfortability with being able to answer basic questions. And that's really what's going on, is we are now uncomfortable answering questions that we should be comfortable at answering. We should be able to say whatever it is we want to say. Just because we utter something does not mean we've made the other person less than. We didn't make somebody else less than because we state our opinion on something, or something we know to be true.
Why is the difference?
Well, I think it helps organize society. People need to know how to act. You have to have some sort of model for your behavior. And generally, girls have a female model and men have a male model. And it helps us remain predictable and desirable to one another. It helps us organize our interactions. If you get rid of all the roles that people play in life, then no one knows what to do. And it's not pleasant going through your life not knowing what to do, not having some kind of ideal or goal to follow. Typically in our society, the pattern is that you grow up and find a productive occupation that helps you survive, and then find a mate and have children. And well, that might not be ideal for everyone. It's a lot better than nothing, and it's certainly a lot better than sheer chaos. And to introduce all these choices to people and to interfere with their development of a stable identity means that people won't know what to do, and then their lives get very chaotic and anxiety provoking and lack meaning.
Have a website or anything you want to give out for the folks?
Well,
Yeah, that right there, I mean, that was again something that a friend of mine and I spoke about Friday, and we actually made a video on it. The video is called about finding your purpose. And yeah, I mean, it's, if we take away the roles that men play and women play, and we confuse everything, and we have. I mean, we've totally confused things. We've totally moved things in directions to where we're not saying what it is that we're not being honest about things. We're just not being honest about anything, and people are losing purpose. They're losing touch with reality, and you're finding guys that 30% of guys are almost 30% that 18 to 30 that don't have sex and stay in their mom's basement or their dad's basement, or and women complain they can't find a good man, and I mean, just so many things going on now. And again, you watch the news and they want to paint a certain picture. They want to paint a certain way things are, but it doesn't mean it's the way things are. I mean, just because you want to paint something a particular way doesn't mean that's the way it is. And yeah, we're finding out that not being honest about things, including sex and race and everything else, and not being straight about something, and being afraid to speak what's on your mind is somehow good, and losing and rearranging the gender norms, I guess you could say, is somehow good. And and I think we're finding right now the reality of what happens when you start messing around with things, and you start taking what has been people's purpose for thousands upon thousands of years, and you're somehow changing it. And again, if we don't accept something the way it is, the way you say it is, then we're not woke enough. And that's just absolute shit. I mean, come on. That's just absolute ridiculousness. But anyways.
Tell you about one of the programs that we've developed that you might be interested in, given your rebuilding the man focus. Okay. So I have a website called selfauthoring.com. It's selfauthoring, selfauthoring.com. And there's a program there called Future Authoring that helps people write out a plan for their life 3 to 5 years down the road. And so, first of all, people are asked 6 questions about how they might like their life to go. So we ask people to put themselves in a mindset of caring for themselves like they might care for someone they love. And then to think about what their life could be like if things worked out for them well 3 to 5 years down the road. And so we ask people what they would like their family life like, how they would like to be employed, what they would like their education to be, how they would take care of their mental and physical health, how they would handle drugs and alcohol, and Then we get them to write for 15 minutes without really paying too much attention to grammar or spelling about what their ideal future would be in 3 to 5 years. And then we get them to do the opposite. Get them to imagine that their bad habits and weaknesses and faults took the upper hand and augured them into the ground, and how bad their life could be in 3 to 5 years if they let everything fall apart. That sort of gives people a little personal heaven to aim at and a little personal hell to avoid. It's good.
There, right there, guys. I'm going to cut the video with this because I don't want to make it too long, but I think that right there is it. I mean, we have got to understand that we have the choice. It's us. Yeah, things may not always be fair in the world, and you know there might be sexism somewhere and racism somewhere and whatever. And I'm not going to get into the whole argument of systemic racism or whatever. I'm not gonna get into that because I think it's more complicated than the way people try to make it sound. And I mean, proponents of systemic racism, people that say that it is happening, and opponents that say it's not happening. But again, I think that they're oversimplifying it to a large degree. But I personally, I kind of disagree with a lot of it. But the thing is, we have got to understand that we have got to take charge of ourselves first. First and foremost, we've got to take charge of us. If we want something, we got to start working towards it. Just apply some kind of an effort. I think Jordan Peterson said that at one point, or I read something he said about apply all your effort to something for like a year or 2 years or whatever he said, and see what the outcome is. Be honest, really apply effort to it, really work at it. And I think the thing is, when we can do something about ourselves and about our mindsets and about our work ethic and about whatever. We can't always do something about the outside world, especially right away. But we can do something about ourselves. And I think we can start noticing, number one, this problem. That awareness, that having awareness that there is a problem, brings all kinds of solutions. Because I think in a lot of ways, solutions don't come from you. In a lot of ways. I think we can become aware of something, and we can work towards changing it, but we get help. We get help. There are all kinds of influences that come in to help you out, to help you get beyond a certain point. But we first have to understand that we are falling short in certain areas. We got to understand that, and we got to bring awareness to it. We got to become aware of it and pray on it or meditate, do whatever on that. And start moving, start applying some kind of effort to changing what's happening in your life. And I think that is something we can do, but we have to be honest with ourselves about what's going on and stop shifting that blame and saying that, well, I would have this if I was male, or if I was white, or if I wasn't trans, or if I was straight, or if I was... No. Apply effort towards changing it and do the best you can with something. And I think that majority of people out there, that's where the problem lies. It doesn't lie in other people. It lies within yourself. But anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here. If you would, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my content if you like it.
You son of a